I nearly died saving for our down payment. He spent it on his mistress's birthday. When I married that poor boy, I figured it was my last shot at happiness. Late change, cardiomyopathy. The doctor said I had 2 or 3 years tops. What I didn't expect was getting pregnant with his child. I gave up chemotherapy willingly, burning through what was left of my body to take on translation work, all to scrape together a down payment for him and the baby. I watched the numbers in our savings account climb, 1 digit at a time. While I waited to die, I signed an organ donation form, planning to have myself taken apart and sold off to cover the rest of the down payment for that little place in the suburbs he kept talking about. Then one afternoon, someone knocked on the door of our rented apartment. I opened it to find a woman. High heels, designer coat, makeup so flawless she could have stepped off a magazine cover. She sized me up with a smile, the way you'd inspect a dish to see if it was worth ordering. Hello, I'm Zhang Ke, fiancé of Shen Zhou, chairman of Shen Real Estate Group. I assumed she had the wrong door. You've got the wrong person. My husband works at a convenience store. She fished a photo from her bag and held it in front of my face. In the photo, Shen Zhou wore a tailored suit with a name badge on his chest, Shen Real Estate Group Chairman. The woman standing beside him was the one at my door. Sweetheart, he only got close to you because of a bet he made with me. She sounded triumphant. The game's over now. I looked down at my swollen belly. And suddenly, everything felt pointless. I made a decision and dialed Dr. Wang's number at the hospital. Dr. Wang, please schedule me for the clinical trial enrollment. I want to terminate the pregnancy and become a test subject for the new drug. After Zhang left, I sat on the sofa for 2 full hours, unable to move. During that time, Shenzhou texted me. Babe, doing inventory at the store tonight. Gonna be here late. Brought you some Asmanthus cake. Before, I would have fired back a string of gushing voice messages. Now my throat felt like it was packed with cement. I stared at his message and noticed, for the first time, that every time he said working late, he specified the exact minute. Too precise. Like reading from a script. I didn't sleep that night. Using the photo Zhang Qi left behind, I found Shen Real Estate Group's website. Chairman bio. Shen Zhou, Censure, MBA from overseas, net worth I stopped reading. Instead, I opened Jiyoung Ke's social media profile. Her pinned post was a long essay, 10 years with him. 9 photos. Switzerland, Bali, Hokkaido. The date on every single one matched a day he'd told me he was restocking the store, at a regional training, or pulling a night shift. I scrolled through them one by one, until I found a post from 3 months ago. She'd shared an anonymous thread. The title, Kaim, I made my boyfriend try living like a poor person, documenting how obsessed his broke wife is. Entries from the thread, Day Sishuchi. He said she knitted him a scarf again. Undying. Who hand dit knits in this day and age? Ever heard of online shopping? Day Liu Sha'ar. She's pregnant. The group chat lost it. He replied with a facepalm emoji. Day Bashawu. She was up at 3 in the morning translating documents to save up for their down payment. Is this woman insane? Hundreds of mocking comments beneath each post, and Zhang Ke's share caption, Ha ha ha! My boyfriend is S.O. committed to the role. By the time I realized I was crying, my tears were already splashing onto the phone screen. That scarf, those 3 Jin AM translation sessions. The porridge I warmed for him every single day. All of it, punchlines for other people's entertainment. I sat on the floor of that rented apartment and howled for a solid 20 minutes. I cried until my heart monitor screamed, cried until my voice gave out. Then I washed my face, dried it, looked at the pale, hollow, jean-cheeked woman in the mirror and said 2 words. Enough. The next day, Shenzhou came home. Same routine. Flashed me a smile first. Tired? I brought you osmanthus cake. Before, I would have smiled and taken it. Today I didn't move. Being lazy again? A thread of impatience in his voice. In the past, I would have felt guilty, wondered what I'd done wrong. Now I could hear what it actually was. Not playful, teasing. Real contempt. I set the cake aside. Yeah, a little tired. Silence. He gave me a surprised look. His phone rang. He glanced at the caller, dropped a quick, "Let me take this," and ducked into the bathroom. I heard his hushed voice through the door. Yeah, everything's normal. She doesn't suspect anything. A pause. The medication. Relax. I switched it out ages ago. She hasn't even noticed. Proves it's not serious. My head buzzed. What medication? I ran to the nightstand and dug out my heart medication bottle. When I opened it, the pills inside looked different from what I remembered. I'd worked in a pharmacy for 3 years. This wasn't metoprolol. This was vitamin B. No wonder the arrhythmia had been getting worse this past month. No wonder my heart had stopped for 2 seconds last week, and it was the monitor that dragged me back from unconsciousness. I thought the disease was progressing. It was him. He'd swapped my pills with his own hands. My stomach turned inside out. I stumbled into the kitchen, doubled over the sink, and Drygen heaved. Shenzhou came out of the bathroom. Wen Che, morning sickness again? I waved him off. I'm fine. When I came out, I brushed past the hand he extended to steady me. His smile twitched. He noticed the osmanthus cake still sitting untouched. Then he slammed the table. I brought that for you. Why aren't you eating? Not hungry, I said slowly. Before the words had fully left my mouth, a vicious cramp seized my chest. I doubled over. Shenzhou. But he'd already turned his back, dropped a single word. Drama queen. Grabbed his phone and slammed the door on his way out. I crumpled to the floor. The heart monitor shrieked. I lay curled on the cold tiles, each heartbeat feeling like a fist clenching around my chest. My phone buzzed wildly. Not Shenzhou. A bank alert. Of the 35,000 yuan I had scraped together in savings, quote, 20,000公升, just been transferred out in a single transaction. The memo read, payment on behalf of Jiang Qi birthday celebration. The phone buzzed again, a message from an unknown number. I tapped it open, a 15-second video. On screen, Jiang Ke unwrapped a gift box and lifted out a necklace, beaming. Zhao Jianj knows me best. The camera panned to Shenzhou. He draped an arm around her shoulders and pressed a kiss to her forehead. Happy birthday, babe! Beneath the video, a line of text. Sweetheart, got the money you saved up. Thanks for the thoughtful gift heart emoji. It was from Jiang Ke. I read it word by word. Then I laughed. A shaking, brittle laugh. He was using money I'd earned at the cost of my life to celebrate another woman's birthday. I didn't reply. Even the sadness felt faint now, as if something inside my heart, some switch, had been quietly flipped off by an invisible hand. Over the next few days, Shenzhou didn't come home. In so, his messages were cold and clipped. Learned your lesson yet? Eat the osmanthus cake. Take a photo and send it to me. He was still waiting for me to grovel the way I always had. Send a long, timid voice message. I'm sorry. I'll do better next time. But I would never do that again. During those days, I read that anonymous thread over and over. It was still being updated. The latest entry. Day. Yalaman Sen. She seems to be getting worse. He says he doesn't care. It's almost over anyway. Next step, get her to initiate the divorce. If she asks first, he won't owe her anything. Double or nothing on the bet. Comments below. Boss Shen is a legend. Is she really that dumb? She doesn't actually think her husband works at a convenience store, does she, Mo? Just then, Dr. Wang called. Have you set the termination date? I gave a cold laugh. Next Saturday. But that morning, just as I was heading out the door, Shenzhou appeared on the doorstep. Looking awkward, he said. Come with me somewhere. He said his company was running a newborn care package for families in need program, giving free baby supplies to qualifying expectant mothers. You've had such a rough pregnancy. I signed you up. Just come pick it up. I nodded dully. He blinked before. I would have thrown my arms around him and said how wonderful he was. When we arrived, I knew something was wrong. It was the function hall of a luxury postpartum care center. Pink balloons and ribbons everywhere. The banner read, "Welcome, baby shower, Jiang." The room was packed with glittering jewel. Draped women circling an enormous cake. And standing right at the center of it all was Jinke. When Shenzhou walked me in, the room went silent for a beat. Then Jiang Ke came forward with a smile. Oh, Cao Cao is here. Here, come, I saved you a special seat. She linked her arm through mine and led me inside. Behind us, whispers. Is that the one from the thread? God, she's even thinner in person. Looks half of Jean dead. Shen really committed to the bit over 100 days living with someone this pathetic. I was seated in a plastic chair in the corner. Everyone else sat on velvet sofas. Today is my baby shower. My little one isn't here yet, but let's celebrate early. Someone handed me a drink in a plastic cup. Everyone else held crystal champagne flutes. The games began, Jiang Ke announced. Let's play Guess the Price. Guess how much these baby products cost. Prizes for the winners. She held them up one by one. A designer stroller, a limited dentation crib, imported organic cotton onesies. Each item cost more than 6 months of my translation income. Come on, Cao, you guessed too. She thrust a can of formula into my hands. I looked at it. Imported hydrolyzed protein. I knew the brand. 420 yuan! The room erupted in laughter. 4,200, sweetie. Jiang clapped a hand over her mouth in exaggerated shock. How many translations would that take? Shenzhou stood nearby, swirling his wine glass. His gaze swept over me. No warmth. Jiang shoved a bag labeled charity donation into my arms. These are second-hand baby clothes nobody wanted. For your little one. You don't mind, do you? The clothes were old. Some had stains. But I didn't react. Not because I was holding back. Because for someone who already knows the full truth, this was just the final act of a bad play. During the intermission, Jiang Ke pulled me into a side room and shut the door. Her smile vanished instantly. Had enough of the performance. She turned her phone screen toward me. The anonymous thread. You've been reading it every day, haven't you? Why aren't you crying? I expected you to beg me in tears. I said nothing. She pulled something from her bag. A voice recorder. She pressed play. My own voice came through the speaker. Late, night recordings of me talking to my belly. Baby, mommy's not well. I might not be around very long, but daddy will be here. Mommy saved another 800 yuan today. Once we have our little home, you'll have your own room. Mommy can't wait for you to come out so Mommy can hold you. I remembered every word. I'd thought those were secrets shared only between me and my child. Zhang Kid, pause. There are cameras in your bedroom. Shenzhou installed them. Every night, a bunch of us watched the playback together. This part was my favorite. We laughed for ages. She saw my fingers trembling and her lips curled upward. Oh, and the things your mother sent last month. She pointed at a cardboard box in the corner. I walked over and opened it. Inside were the baby clothes my mother had spent 2 months sewing by hand. A little tiger bib, a tiger Jin had hat, hand Jin stitched baby shoes. Every single piece had been cut to shreds. The fabric scraps lined the bottom of the box, topped with Zhang Kei's high heels used as shoe, Dian box padding. Blood rushed to my head until she spoke again. Your mom works at a fish processing plant, right? I heard her. Hands are covered in scars. From filleting fish? I saw the video of her bringing Shenzhou the dowry. 50,000 yuan, all in small bills, stuffed in a plastic bag. Took forever to count. She smirked. Just wondering, are your mom's hands gross? All those fish scales and scars? She doesn't wear gloves when she goes out? My mother's hands aren't gross. My voice changed. Those hands raised me, Zhang Ke scoffed. Raised you for what? So, you could be everyone's laughingstock. I grabbed a fistful of her hair. Give me back what my mom made. Apologize to her. You're crazy, Al. She screamed and shoved me. Her nails raked across my face. A searing pain exploded from my chest. The heart monitor shrieked. I fell backward onto the floor. The door burst open. People flooded in. Laughter everywhere. She's faking it. Shenzhou rushed in. He crouched beside me, fumbling. Wenqi, what happened? I laughed, a terrible, ravaged laugh, tears streaming. Laughing at him for still acting. Laughing at him for putting on his concerned. Tian husband show in front of every single person who knew the truth. John pressed a dainty hand to her lips. Oh my, I had no idea she was this fragile. Just then, a commotion erupted outside the function hall. A raspy woman's voice was yelling. My daughter's in there. Let me in. My daughter's in there. My mother. Last month she'd called and said her back was bad, told me not to worry about her. What I didn't know was that she'd secretly saved up a month of vacation days and taken a 19-jet-hour hard gen-seat train to surprise me. She'd arrived at our apartment to find it empty, asked a neighbor, and tracked me here. She saw me on the floor, a room full of people standing around laughing. Her eyes went red in an instant, but she was so out of place. Still in her factory uniform, no time to change. Canvas shoes smelling of fish, hands rough and red, crisscrossed with knife scars. To these people, she didn't look like a mother. She looked like a lunatic who'd wandered in off the street. 2 staffers grabbed her arms and tried to drag her out. She fought with everything she had. The cloth bundle in her hands was ripped open. Its contents clattered to the marble floor. Money. 10 yuan bills. 20s. 50s. Scattering one by one across the polished stone. This was months' more savings. Small bills she'd squirreled away to help me buy formula. Someone in the crowd laughed. My mother bent down to pick up the money. In the scuffle, her foot slipped and she crashed to the ground, the back of her skull striking the door frame, blood flowing down through her graying hair. She lay on the floor, still reaching for the scattered bills. Don't step on them. That's for my daughter. Don't step on them. Mom! I was gasping, barely able to breathe, clawing at the floor trying to get to her. Shenzhou held me down, hissing, Wenqi, enough. You started it. Apologize first. He couldn't see a daughter's heart shattering, couldn't see a mother lying in blood, picking up loose change. All he saw was a mess that needed containing. Jiang Ke wept prettily. She attacked me out of nowhere. Shen, Ken, Shen, Jen, Shen. Are you just gonna stand there? One of the women grabbed the bag of shredded baby clothes and flung it in my face. Drop the act. Those rags your mother made you think those are worth showing off. I had nothing left to explain. An ambulance. Call an ambulance. A cleaning lady in the corner quietly pulled out her phone and dialed. Yao Lirier. I finally reached my mother's hand. Her face was covered in blood, but she gripped my fingers and rasped. Don't cry, baby. Mama's fine. Mama's not hurting. Scalding tears hit the back of Shenzhou's hand. He froze. Wen Jia, you! Shenzhou! Zhang Qi's shrill voice cut him off. She'd somehow found my surgical consent form from inside my bag and was waving it above her head. Look at this. She scheduled a termination behind your back. She thinks you're too poor. She wants to dump the baby along with you. The room erupted. Her own flesh and blood. Just thrown away. That's cold. Jiang Qi, too, there in her million-gent wine couture and 10-gent million-gent yuan jewels, passing righteous judgment on me. Meanwhile I, a woman whose heart could stop at any moment, had been dipping into my medication budget just to afford prenatal vitamins. Shenzhou grabbed my wrist, his voice raw. You're planning to abort the baby? In that moment, he seemed deaf to everything else. Couldn't hear my mother calling my name from the floor. Couldn't hear the shrieking of my heart monitor. Yes. I looked at him with pure loathing. Your child. I won't bring her into this world. Shenzhou's face turned to iron. He flung my hand away. Wen Qi, I had you all wrong. Then he strode out. I laughed until I couldn't breathe, laughed until tears poured down my face. At his stupidity and his cruelty. Someone's voice shook. Her face looks terrifying. She's not going to. Jiang Qi waved her hand and led the group out. Come on, show's over. Who cares if she lives or dies? The paramedics finally arrived. I dragged myself to my mother with every ounce of strength I had left and saw her gray hair matted with blood. Save her first. They wheeled my mother away on a stretcher. I slumped against the cold wall and used the last of my strength to call Dr. Wang. I can't hold on anymore. After the termination, send me straight to the drug trial center. Give all the money to my mother. Before going into surgery, my phone buzzed frantically. Shenzhou. Call after call, each one more desperate than the last. I watched the screen light up and go dark. Go dark and light up. Once, twice, 10 times. When the nurse urged me in, I calmly removed the SIM card. As the anesthesia flowed into my veins, my unfocused eyes met the cold light on the ceiling. From the hallway came a muffled voice. Dr. Wang, on the phone with someone. What? What? That Wen Ji is your son's. Then the clatter of a scalpel dropping onto a metal tray. Shenzhou sat clutching his phone. 17 missed calls. Jing Ke leaned against him, pouting. Normally, his attention and affection were all hers, but right now, every bit of it was fixed on the woman she despised. She felt uneasy. So she pressed closer, winding herself around his arm. Shenzhou, we've pushed the wedding back 3 times now. If we wait any longer, my father won't stand for it. Her palms were sweating. Something that should have been in the bag felt uncertain, and panic was creeping in. She reassured herself with her father's business leverage. Shen Real Estate was entirely dependent on her family's capital injections. Shenzhou had spent 10 years on a leash for her. He should be thrilled to marry her. And the problem in the operating room should be taken care of by now. But just as she was feeling smug, Shenzhou suddenly pulled his arm free. We'll talk later. Their friends stared, open, Jian-mouthed. Jiang Ke's eyes reddened instantly. In the past, the moment she teared up, Shenzhou would fold. Just like back in university, she'd thrown red wine in his face in front of the entire class, and the next morning he was still standing below her dorm with flowers. But now, all he felt was annoyance. He thought back to that incident. Junior year, Zhang Ke had lied to go on a date with an upperclassman, leaving him standing in the rain for 4 hours. When he was hooked up to an IV with a fever, he'd received a photo of her and someone else in Hawaii. In their youth, he'd gone mad for her, and she'd turned her back on him time and again to jet off with the next man. Even when he knelt and begged her to take him back, she'd laughed and set conditions. I need you to prove something. Go find someone. Make her fall desperately in love with you. Then tell her the truth and send me a video of her falling apart. Do that and I'll marry you. At the time, Shenzhou thought the demand was deranged. But 10 years of obsession had burned his judgment to cinders. Jiang Ke picked the target from a dating site, a girl whose profile picture was a gardenia flower. Her bio read, 24, temp worker at a pharmacy, health not great, looking for a steady down, 2-gen earth partner. She's obviously lonely. Lonely people are the easiest marks. The game began. He built a fake persona according to the script. Convenience store night shift, parents dead, Sijuan a month. Ben C fell for it quickly. She believed everything. He said he was cold, and she spent 2 weeks knitting him a scarf until her fingers locked up. He faked a sprained ankle, and she carried him on her back for 2 kilometers to the ER, only for the staff to notice she was the one who'd gone white as a sheet, leaning against the wall and gasping for air. He assumed she was just frail, didn't think much of it. Later, she told him she was pregnant. For a split second, he panicked. He messaged the group, "She's pregnant, crap. What now?" "Jane," he replied instantly. "Perfect, let her keep it. The truth reveal will be twice as devastating." He hesitated for 20 minutes, replied, "We'll see." But that night, he happened to check the surveillance footage. Benji was sitting on the edge of the bed, whispering to her belly. "Baby, Mommy's not well. I might not be around for very long. But Daddy will be here. Daddy's too lonely by himself. Mommy wants to leave him some company." Her voice was so soft, as if she were afraid of waking someone. On screen, she lowered her head and kissed her belly. Shenzhou sat in front of the monitor, his finger hovering over the power button. He didn't press it. In that moment, his chest felt like a stone had been wedged inside. Later, Wenji started translating until 3 in the morning to save up for their down payment. And Zhang Ke? She only nagged. The thread hit Wuling K followers. "Can you give us more material? The audience wants to see her cry." The game went on. But he could no longer tell, was the woman on the screen who talked to her belly in the dead of night his target, or something else entirely. He couldn't sit still anymore. He stood up and headed for the door. "Where are you going?" Zhang Ke grabbed him. "To find her." "Shenzhou, walk out that door and I'll post your real name on the thread." "Go ahead." Headlights sliced through the night and vanished at the end of the street. He pushed open the door to the apartment. The silence was suffocating. On the dining table sat a half-finished bowl of cold gin, the one he'd left the night before in a fit of pique. If Wenzhui here, that congee would already be warm. The unease inside him swelled. He kicked a medicine bottle, picked it up. His fingers went rigid. Metoprolol tartrate. Dilated cardiomyopathy. He stopped breathing. He tore through the apartment, under the bed, inside shoeboxes, hidden compartments of the wardrobe. 8 full bottles of heart medication, stashed in every corner. At the very bottom, a creased diagnostic report. Dilated cardiomyopathy, end-stage cardiac function class Y. That's impossible, he muttered to himself. It's not serious. She said it wasn't serious. Probably afraid of worrying him. Wen-che had peeled the labels off every bottle she used to store her medicine. He had no idea what was actually inside. The realization that he had personally swapped her life, chain-saving medication, for vitamins hit him like a tidal wave of guilt. He lunged for the drawer she never let him touch. Inside, there was no secret, just an old phone. He turned it on. It had only one app, a voice recorder. The file list was organized neatly by date. For baby day, E. For baby day, R. For baby day, Sun. For baby day, hard C. He tapped the first one. Wen C's voice floated out, so gentle it might break. Hello, baby. Today is the first day Mommy knew about you. The doctor says Mommy's heart might not make it until you're born, but Mommy wants to try. Even if I can only be with you for a few months, Mommy wants to hear you call my name. He tapped day 53 under down. Today, Daddy says he wants a little home. Mommy's working hard. When you come out, you'll have your own little bed. He tapped day, Ling Ling. Baby, Mommy's heart hasn't been feeling great lately, but it's okay. Mommy wants to tell you a secret. Mommy signed an agreement. After Mommy's gone, Mommy's corneas will go to a child who can't see. Part of Mommy will still be alive in this world. Isn't that nice? He tapped the last one, Ongo Archie, recorded yesterday. Baby, I'm sorry. Mommy might not be able to bring you into this world after all. It's not that Mommy doesn't love you. It's that Mommy realized this world is crueler than Mommy thought. But Mommy will leave all the money for Grandma. Your Grandma is the best person in the world. Her hands are rough, but they're the warmest. At the end of the recording, she cried, very quietly, as if fighting with everything she had to keep it in. Then, in a hoarse whisper, Mommy's sorry. Shenzhou turned off the phone. He collapsed to his knees. His forehead struck the floor with a heavy thud. A sound like a caged animal's whimper tore from his throat. What had he done? The shrill ring cut through the dead of night. Mr. Shen, Jiang Kei is suspected of aggravated assault and illegal surveillance. We need you to come in. The police station was bathed in harsh white light. The moment Jiang Kei saw Shenzhou, she threw herself at him. Jay, all I did was post a few things online. Those cameras weren't even my idea. Shenzhou stared at the face he'd been infatuated with for 10 years. He raised his hand and slapped her across the face. The crack echoed down the corridor. Jiang Kei staggered backward, blood seeping from the corner of her mouth. 3 months. His voice was scraped raw. You had me swap her medication for 3 months. Cardiac function class 1, do you have any idea what that means? And those recordings. Those were for her baby. What gave you the right to turn them into a joke for 500,000 people? The officers pulled up Jiang Kei's phone. The thread was still up. The latest post from 2 hours ago. Grand final preview. She's scheduled for the termination. Think, Boss Shen will stop her. Place your bets. Over 1,000 comments underneath. Some bet stops her. Others bet doesn't. One read, been reading too many revenge fantasies. In real life, nobody gives a damn about her. Shenzhou stared at those comments, his fingers clenched until his knuckles went white. Jiang Jie dropped to her knees. 10 years, Shenzhou. In 10 years, When have you ever not been the first one to come crawling? For 10 years, I was worse than a dog. He shoved her away. Starting today, delete the thread yourself. Lawyer's letter arrives tomorrow. Everything between us is over. Right now, I'm going to find my wife, Wen Qi. Jenki crumpled to the floor. As she was led away, she was still screaming, Shenzhou, you've lost your mind. The door opened. Shenzhou's mother, Zhou Min, deputy director of Renji Hospital, hurried in. Catching that last sentence, she frowned slightly. Wenchai, that name. She didn't dwell on it. She'd never bothered much with her son's love life. She was here to deal with the Ging Ti situation. After signing the transcript and reminding Shenzhou to stay out of trouble, she rushed back to the hospital. That night, after finishing her shift, Jolmin returned to her office and flipped through the day's surgical records. She reached the obstetrics department's termination form, and her eyes scanned the patient name. Wenji H. 25, Enst, dilated cardiomyopathy. Termination at 18 weeks. Her hand stopped. Wenche, the name Shenzhou had mentioned at the station. She told herself it was a coincidence. There could be more than one Wenxi in this city. But her fingers had already clicked open the patient details, moving of their own accord. Marital status, married spouse, Shenzhou. The office was very quiet. Zhoumin sat in her swivel chair, feeling as though every drop of blood had been drained from her body. She thought of what she'd seen in the operating room that afternoon. That pale, skeletal young woman, eyes open as they wheeled her in. No tears, no words. Just before the anesthesia took hold, she had gently placed her hand on her belly. The child she had signed the form to terminate was her own granddaughter. Jumin stood up, sat down, stood up again, braced herself against the desk, and dried and heaved twice. Nothing came up. At 3 in the morning, she drove to Shenzhou's apartment. When he opened the door, his mother was standing in the hallway. Her hair was half undone, her eyes were bloodshot, her lips had no color. She looked at Shenzhou for a long time, so long he thought she was about to say something. Mom, what are you? Crack a slap, harder than the one he'd given Jiang Ke at the station. Shenzhou clutched his face, stunned. In his entire life, she had never laid a finger on him. You got married. Zhao Min's voice sounded like it was being squeezed through her teeth. You married a girl with end-stage heart disease, got her pregnant, made her work herself to death, saving money for you. And then you swapped out her medication. Shenzhou's pupils contracted violently. How? How do you know? You let her go through the termination alone. Jolmin spoke one word at a time. And I, your mother, signed the consent form with my own hand. Her composure finally shattered. When the tears came, her whole body sagged against the doorframe, shoulders heaving. I've been a doctor for 30 years. I've saved thousands of lives. Today I killed my own granddaughter with my own hands. She couldn't go on. Shenzhou dropped to his knees. Mom, I was wrong. I'll go find her right now. Go find her? Jolmin's head snapped up, eyes streaked with red. You think you deserve to? She pulled the ultrasound printout from the termination procedure out of her bag and flung it in his face. Look at it yourself. See what your daughter looked like. Shenzhou picked up the paper in the black. Jin white ultrasound image. A fist, Jin-sized silhouette, was curled up. His finger touched the tiny face in the image. His fingertip began to tremble. Then his wrist. Then his whole arm. Zhao looked at her son kneeling on the floor, shaking, and felt a weariness that went beyond the body. Not physical exhaustion. Her heart had reached its limit. If you have even a shred of humanity left, don't show your face in front of that girl again. She turned away, took 2 steps, stopped, didn't look back. From today on, whatever you do, wherever you die, It has nothing to do with me. Her shoes struck the terrazzo floor of the hallway. One step. Another. Shen Zhou knelt in place. He called out, "Mom," 3 times. No one looked back. It all started with the cleaning lady. At the baby shower, she was the only one who'd called Yarling. Her name was Lao Zhao, 51 the Ray. She cleaned at the postpartum center. After her shift that day, sitting on the bus, she kept turning it over in her mind. That young, pregnant woman on the floor, the whole room laughing around her, and not a single person dialing for an ambulance. At home, she told her college-age daughter about it. Her daughter listened in silence, then asked, "Mom, do you remember the name on that banner?" Jiang something? Jiang K. Her daughter searched the name on her phone, found Jiang K's social media profile, then following the shared posts, found the anonymous thread. The more she read, the more wrong it felt. Everything in the thread, the scarf, the pregnancy, the late night translations, matched her mother's description of that fragile young woman perfectly. "Mom, this thread has 500,000 followers. They treated a real person like a monkey in a zoo for over 100 days. Lao Zhao didn't understand the internet much, but she understood one thing. That girl was writhing in pain on the floor, and her husband told her to apologize. Her daughter screenshot the thread and posted it on her university forum. The title was simple: "My mom witnessed a human tragedy. Today." The post described everything Lao Zhao had seen, Wen Qi on the ground. The laughter. The mother dragged and thrown to the floor. The bills scattered everywhere. "My mom is a janitor. She was the only person in that room who called 120." The post initially got only a handful of views. At 2 in the morning, an insomniac senior stumbled across it. She followed the trail to the original thread, compiled all the screenshots into a long image, and added one line, "I finished reading. My hands are shaking. I didn't know things like this happened." She posted it online. By the following afternoon, it had over 1,000 shares. Then a parenting blogger saw it. She was still nursing and came across the screenshot of Day Liu Shi'er. "She's pregnant. The group chat lost it. During a late. She put the baby down, sat on the edge of the bed, and cried for 15 minutes. Then she recorded a video. In the video, she wore no makeup, her eyes red and swollen, her voice trembling. "I gave birth 4 months ago. During pregnancy, my back ached. I threw up acid. I got leg cramps at night. But I had people who cared. Now look at this girl. Her heart could stop at any moment, and she's translating documents at 3 in the morning to save for a down payment." She thought she was fighting for her family, while 500,000 people watched her like a live stream. The video hit 2 million views that night. People started digging. Who was Bosch, Shen, in the thread? Someone noticed a company logo, Shen Real Estate, in the background of one of Jiang Qi's photos. Following that lead, they found the chairman's bio on the company website. Shen Zhou, Centrar, MBA, returned from abroad. The photo was a perfect match. The internet exploded. Shen Real Estate Chairman, live thread, human wager, 3 trending topics simultaneously hit the top 5. Every update from the thread was screenshotted and shared. Day 42. She knitted him a scarf. Dying, laughing. 30,002 heirs. Day 85. She's up at 3 a.m. translating. Is she insane? 50,000 秒 pairs. Day 103. He doesn't care. It's almost over anyway. 20,000 秒 hairs. The tide in the comments reversed completely. People who had laughed along started deleting their posts. People who had placed bets started deleting their accounts. And those Yarchi recordings, someone somehow found them, began circulating across every platform. Every word Wincy had spoken to her belly was turned into a short video. The most viewed one was Day. Baby. Mommy signed an agreement. After Mommy's gone, Mommy's corneas will go to a child who can't see. 30 million views. Top comment, Sichi Ling likes. She was planning to sell herself for parts. He was sending emojis in the group chat. Shenzhou's phone was bombarded, not with concern, but with demands for answers. Business partners called one after another. Mr. Shen, what is going on? The board requires an explanation. Then suppliers, then banks, then home buyers. He sat in his office, curtains drawn tight. His phone vibrated itself off the desk, hit the floor, and kept ringing. Ven Shi's number was already disconnected. He didn't know where she was, didn't know if she was alive. 3 days later, the largest partner formally terminated the contract. The letter was politely worded. In light of recent public developments regarding your company, after careful consideration, Jiangqi's father called once, said a single sentence. My daughter's situation is your doing. Build a hole in Shen real estate yourself. Then hung up, never took his calls again. The bank froze Shen real estate's credit line. 3 construction sites halted simultaneously. Over 700 home buyers lined up with banners outside the sales office. Inspectors came from the Commerce Bureau, from the Tax Bureau, from the Housing Authority, accounting irregularities that had been overlooked thanks to the Jiang families. Connections were dragged into the light item by item. 4 months later, Shen Real Estate filed for bankruptcy. The court seized every asset under his name, office buildings, the villa, luxury cars, all gone. The day the last car was towed away, Shenzhou stood in the empty underground garage, wearing the only jacket that hadn't been repossessed. 370 yuan in his pocket. Standing there, he suddenly thought of Wen Qi's savings account. 35000 yuan, earned at the cost of her life, and he hadn't blinked before wiring Dim Bing of it to buy another woman a necklace. He tried to find work. His resumes vanished into the void. Recruiters looked up his name and hung up. Shenzhou? The Shenzhou? From the live thread? Sorry, our company isn't hiring that kind of talent. He hauled bricks at a construction site. The foreman recognized him the next day. Hey guys, come look. Boss Shen is here for some hands-on experience. Is this another live stream? He tried food delivery. His first customer recognized him. The customer threw the food on the ground, filmed it, and posted. Former Shen real estate chairman just delivered my lunch. I wouldn't dare eat it. 800 000. Lakes, he couldn't rent an apartment. Landlords looked up his name and returned the deposit. He slept in internet cafes under bridges, in Arshasizi, Gastient, Arfast, Jane food restaurants. Every night, he would take out that old phone. The battery had long since died, but he couldn't bring himself to throw it away. Because it held Wenji's archive recordings, he visited every repair shop in the city, spent his last savings to fix the charging port. Then he curled up in a corner of the fast Jane food restaurant and listened, one recording at a time. When he reached Day, Artsy Mommy's sorry. He pressed the phone tight to his chest and cried without a sound. No one in the restaurant looked at him. Or rather, everyone was looking. No one cared. A year later, Shenzhou's body began to fail. Months of sleeping rough and malnutrition had gutted his immune system. He developed severe pneumonia and spent 3 days in the ER. No one came to see him. He called his mother. Beep, beep, beep. The number you have dialed has been changed. Please check and try again. He called former friends. Hello? It's me, Shenzhou. 2 seconds of silence. Click. He called his old driver. Mr. Shen? Lao Li, I'm in the hospital. Could you? I'm sorry, Mr. Shen. I'm with another company now. It's not convenient. The whole world had quietly abandoned him. The day he was discharged, he passed a newsstand. A magazine cover read, Drug Pioneer Miracle. End stage cardiomyopathy. Patient Wen Qi survives experimental treatment. First case in China. He stood in front of the newsstand and stared at those words for a long time. She survived. She survived. His knees buckled. He squatted on the curb, forehead pressed to his knees, shoulders shaking violently. Pedestrians walked around him. Someone tossed 2 coins at his feet. He didn't pick them up. 2 years later, through a long chain of inquiries, he learned Wen Qi was in Jushan. He didn't know why he had to go. Maybe to see with his own eyes that she was alive. Maybe to say he was sorry. Maybe just to die a little closer to her. He had no money for a ticket. He spent 3 days hauling cargo at the docks, earning enough for the cheapest berth. He arrived in Zhoushan at dusk. He found the community clinic. Through the window, he saw Wen Qi standing in front of the medicine cabinet. She wore a white coat, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She'd put on a little weight. Her face had color. She was filling a prescription for an old man, smiling as she reminded him, Uncle Wang, you can't eat grapefruit with your blood pressure medicine. The old man chuckled and agreed. Shenzhou stood outside the window for a full hour. He didn't go in. He didn't dare. After the clinic closed, Wen Qi walked along the waterfront. He followed at a distance. He watched her mother appear from the mouth of an alley, closing up her dried-in seafood stand, carrying a bag of goods. Sweetheart, made an extra 20 yuan today. Got the fish? Let's go home and eat. Wen Qi laughed, took the bag, and linked her arm through her mother's. The two of them walked home, chatting and laughing. The scar on her mother's head had long since healed. She called it not a wound, but a medal for protecting her daughter. Mother and daughter, their silhouettes stretched long by the sunset, gilded in warm gold. Shenzhou leaned against the wall at the corner of the alley and slowly slid to the ground. He remembered Wen Qi once saying, I've never seen the ocean. I'd love to, just once. He'd said, I'll take you. Now, she'd walked to the sea on her own. She didn't need him. Never needed him. He watched those 2 retreating figures and felt something inside his chest being torn open, slowly and deliberately. Not heart disease. Something far less treatable. The next morning, the clinic wasn't open yet. Wen Qi was riding her bicycle past the waterfront when she noticed a crowd gathered below the breakwater. She went to look. A man lay on the rocks. Clothes, filthy and torn, cheekbones jutting out, lips purple, body ice, gin cold. Beside him lay a phone with a shattered screen and a crumpled envelope. Someone shouted, Call Yao Ling! He's still breathing! Wen Qi crouched down and instinctively checked his pulse. Faint, but there, she raised her hand to turn him over, and saw his face. Her hand hung in the air for 3 seconds. A fisherman beside her asked, Dr. Wen, do you know him? She slowly withdrew her hand and stood up. No. She got on her bicycle and rode away without looking back. The sea wind blew the envelope open. Inside was a sheet of paper, the handwriting shaky and trembling. Wen Qi, I didn't dare give this to you in person. Probably don't want to see my handwriting anyway. I thought for a long time about what to write. Wrote it hundreds of times. Tore it up hundreds of times. In the end, only 1 sentence was left. What I owe you, I can never repay. I'm sorry, Shinjo. By the time the paramedics arrived, he had stopped breathing. The coroner's report. Cause of death was multi-gut organ failure due to prolonged malnutrition, compounded by severe pulmonary infection. No food in his stomach, no money in his pockets. No one by his side. He died on the road Wen-Che took to work every day. He died beside the ocean she'd once said she wanted to see. He died on a morning when the sky was very, very blue. The news made it back to the city but didn't trend. Just a small paragraph tucked in the corner of a local news site. Former Shen real estate chairman, Shen Brackrock, found dead on a Zhaohen beach, age 35. No next of kin claimed the body. Only 2 comments. He had it coming. Is Wen-Chi doing okay? After that, life went on as usual. I went to the clinic every day, filled Uncle Wang's blood pressure prescription, reminded Auntie Lee to cut back on salt. My mom kept closing up her stand, counting her change with a grin. Made 20 Gen 5 yuan extra today, 5 more than yesterday. The sea breeze was still salty, the waves were still warm. One evening, I walked home along the breakwater. When I passed those rocks, my steps faltered for a beat. The ground was clean, no trace of anything left. The tide had come and gone. I stood there for a few seconds, then kept walking. My mom was waving at me from the mouth of the alley. Sweetheart, hurry up. The fish soup's getting cold. I picked up my pace. Some people are poisoned while they're alive. Dead, they're nothing more than a water stain on the rocks after the tide goes out. A little sun, and there's nothing left at all. And